to the Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater alongside Richard A. the Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer, Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Good evening.
It is Monday, December 8th, 2025. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gaming Discourse, patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. You can support us for $247, $10. Get your name in the video credits, early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, and more. I have not updated the Patreon page in like 2 weeks because hopefully tomorrow I will have a video done and I will have it uploaded to Patreon. I don't know if I'm going to do a rough draft and then like a final thing that I throw up on YouTube, or if the one that I finish tomorrow will be good enough that I can move on to other things. I need to move on to other things because I have a bunch of stuff that I want to do before the year ends. But so yeah, if you follow us on Patreon, hopefully tomorrow afternoon-ish, I will have a video up about Battlefield 6 as single player, and then by the weekend, I'll have something to put on YouTube. What I have so far is something that I think I like, something that I think turned out okay. It could have been better had I been able to spend a lot more time on it, but scope is always a difficult thing. Like, what do I want to talk about? What do I want to write about or whatever? So I tried to keep it as focused as I could. So yeah, go to our Patreon, check us out, and that'll be up hopefully not too long into tomorrow. Okay, so Richard, you haven't been playing anything?
Unfortunately not. Yeah.
But you, when was the last time we were all together recording? Because
2 weeks ago, I think.
Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, we're still on Arc Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to start. I'm gonna try tonight or tomorrow, but I'm gonna start Mafia: The Old Country.
Oh, okay.
I love the Mafia series.
You are you're
yeah.
like one of the few people I know of that's like a big Mafia fan, and you were a big fan of the third one too.
Yeah, very big fan of its story and presentation. Mostly, the gameplay is lacking, just as everyone else says. But in some strange way, the more I played it, the more I was fine with it.
Okay.
Because it was so easy and dull that you kind of just like just glided through it. So like when I would go to, because each mission just depended on you going to not a hideout.
Okay,
Oh my
okay.
God, I don't know why I got that. Anyways, you'd go to a hideout and then you'd have to like take out everybody in there and like the head guy.
All right.
And
That's
you'd have to
pretty
like stealth it out, but it's just the functionality of these places you would go to were just so easy to hug a corner, execute a guy, go to the next, execute a guy, so rinse and repeat.
It's just very generic.
Very generic, yeah, very generic. But yeah.
Mafia 3 or Mafia the Old Country I'm interested in because I'm curious what they do, because I don't know anything about like the Mafia in Italy, right? Mm-hmm. And so much of American Mafia media is about the people who is about like the mobsters who idealize the original gangsters in the Old Country, right?
Yeah.
There's this famous scene in The Sopranos where Tony has like a hallucination, and he essentially hallucinates the scene from The Godfather Part 2 where why can't I think of the main character's name all of a sudden? I don't know. He goes back to Italy and he lives out like this idealized like pastoral life, and then eventually his wife in Italy is killed. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Part 2. But anyway, so Tony has this like fantasy where he kind of lives out his own version of The Godfather Part 2. Mm-hmm. And even in the Sopranos universe, The Godfather, the movie, exists because they reference it all the time.
Right.
So it's this weird meta thing where a character is idealizing something that even the Godfather movies are like somewhat ideal. Like, it's all very strange.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, so going back to that is one thing that makes me interested in the Old Country. And if they take into consideration how their previous games talked about the Old Country at all, or if it's just sort of a, hey, we're going to go do a new thing in Italy or whatever.
I think it's it's like in 1904, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's really early stuff. So I think it's just enough removed that what you know about mafia, like from the 1940s and on, like would just have no bearing on anything.
Yeah.
So this is just something can't wait to just like start up and go into, because it's in a world full of open world games. It'll be nice to have like a 7-8 hour, you know, thing to go through. That's focused on its story and its storytelling.
And they updated it so it's like connected, right, or something? Wasn't there a recent?
I don't know.
There was a recent like relatively substantial update where they made it like the levels. I think it may have been similar to what they did with the original Mafia game, where because the original Mafia game wasn't open world, but you could kind of drive around the world.
So it was it's a difference between, to me, open world and sandbox.
Yeah.
So Grand Theft Auto is sandbox. You can play in it. You can do whatever. And then open world is just, you can just drive around it. And Mafia 1 and 2 have open worlds. There's not a whole ton to do there, but you just roll around in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you. You'll have to let me know what you think, because that was one that I almost picked up a couple of weeks ago. And that's another one that I am like, I want to get a physical copy of that.
Yeah. And it was a quote unquote budget title when it came out. I think it was only $49.99, you know. So yeah, I'm excited to see what it has to offer.
Connor, what have you been playing?
Primarily, I've been playing Split Fiction and the demo from Minos. Split Fiction just feels like a Haze-like game. It's very mechanic and game design forward, and the writing seems to take a back seat to a lot of stuff. And a lot of the sci-fi sections have felt very samey compared to the fantasy sections.
How far are you into it so far?
We just got to the dragons.
So which one? Sorry, I coughed.
The dragons.
The dragons. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I would agree with you that, because the idea is that the sci-fi and the fantasy are all kind of generic in a way. But yes, the sci-fi all does kind of feel samey, while there's, I don't know, the fantasy of like there's ogres that you face early on, and that kind of feels like a Blizzard type area. And then once you get to the dragons, it doesn't really feel Blizzardy. It feels different when you get there. So yeah, I would agree with you there.
And then the Minos demo is a strategy roguelike, kind of like the old Dungeon Keeper games. And being a minotaur in a labyrinth is a great theme for these games, a great aesthetic choice for a Dungeon Keeper style game. And so far, it's a short demo. It's not very long, but the roguelike aspect of getting different layouts that you create your dungeon in, and the varying enemy types keeps the content fun and creates different challenges each time you run through it. And I'm very looking forward to it coming out.
And when did that come out? Oh, yeah, I was going to say, is it out already or is it not out?
No, it releases. It doesn't have a hard date, but 2026.
Oh, okay. And do you know the developer off the top of your head?
I think it's Artificer, but I could be wrong.
Oh, okay, cool.
It is being published by. Sorry, it's developed by Artificer. It's being published by Devolver Digital, I think.
That sounds like a Devolver Digital title for sure. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Hades too, and the more you play, roguelikes seem like a perfect fit for mythology. I don't really know why. It just seems, because of all the death and stuff in mythology.
Yeah,
it just seems like a perfect like fit for the genre, where you're able to do things over and over again, and if you're able to meet characters and really talk to them a bunch. Hades 2 is just excellent with that. But okay, well that sounds interesting. Anything else?
No, not really.
So yeah, I've just been playing Hades 2, gotten into trying to get further into that. I found the weapon that I like. I like the axe a lot. There's this giant axe that Melanoi can use. It's I think it's like the third weapon you unlock. and I haven't unlocked all 4 weapons yet, but I talked about Hades 2 last week. The combat's excellent. Everything is good about it. The one thing that I think people may not like as much is that the narrative is a bit different. So in the first Hades, you met all these gods, and Zagreus was kind of doing his own thing, and everybody was just kind of watching him, and they're like, oh, hey, Zag, how you doing, man? You know, I see you're going over here. Okay, cool, whatever. Like the gods of Olympus were sort of living, and Zagreus was on his own journey. And this one in Hades 2, Melanoi, because it takes place after the Titan Kronos does stuff. I'll keep it vague. So everybody in Olympus is sort of on the same wavelength, meaning the story is about it's about Melanoi, but it's also about how Olympus is dealing with Kronos. Mm-hmm. So there's a bigger, like, grander narrative that Melanoi is a part of, as opposed to Zagreus, where he's just sort of doing his own thing and he's figuring out his own family trauma.
Yeah.
There's like a bigger cause in this one, which is interesting, because now the gods' dialogue is not always about other gods. Sometimes it advances subplots that you haven't seen yet. Like with Hermes specifically, there is a subplot with Hermes where Hermes is like doing something, discovering something. And yeah, to like advance that plot line, I think you just have to find Hermes, and then he's like, hey, and he'll tell you about what's going on in his little subplot. So rather than the gods being these things that you encounter and they're kind of doing their own stuff, and their boons kind of feel like they're bored, but here, take this power and I'll watch you go fight. Right. Now it's like, take my power because we're in a war and you need to go fight.
No time for games. Like, we need you in here. Yeah.
The game still has lots of personality, though. Obviously, the gods, like Zeus, is still very, egotistical. All the gods are very like they're no less vain and ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But it's just I don't know. In the previous one, everything was a little less urgent. I guess there's a stronger sense of urgency here, which I like. But I could see why people kind of miss the more laid back tone of the first Hades. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I played, but really I've just been so for this Battlefield video, I played every single Battlefield single player mode that I think exists right now easily. I played Battlefield 2 Modern Combat. I played Battlefield Hardline. I played Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2. I played through Battlefield 3 and 4, Battlefield 6, Battlefields 1 and 5, their War Stories modes. And so I don't think there are any other Battlefields that, like Battlefield 1942 has a campaign mode, but as far as I can tell, it's just instant action and you're just playing the like levels in the order that they give them to you. Yeah. They're not really, they try to like contextualize it historically, but it's basically the same. It's just conquest. It's just
there's action. No bumpers of like a quick like,
not that I can tell
what the battle would be about, or
no, there's a loading screen that's like, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool. But there's no like historical war footage or anything like that that I have discovered yet. But anyway, so that has taken up most of my like gaming time. And I did get back into Battlefield 6 a little bit. Battlefield 6 is multiplayer, which is I'm still having a lot of fun with. The new map, I don't think I've talked about it, Eastwood. Eastwood is excellent. Eastwood is a fantastic map. It's like a neighborhood, and there's like I'm not even sure what kind of building it. I think it's like you're near a golf course, because the building feels like a country club type building. And it has a really big like restaurant area and there's a bunch of destructible walls and stuff like that. And there are streets, and a couple of the objectives are just around houses. So there are these 2-story houses, fully explorable, fully destroyable, and they're right in the middle of the objective. So there's all kinds of places to hide and run. And so it's like Eastwood is what a Battlefield map should be. I think we could still use bigger maps, but it's really strange because Battlefield 6 really is hit and miss with its maps. There's no map that I hate, but but like the only two that I think I could justifiably say like these are good are Myrick Valley, and which is already the biggest one in the game, and Eastwood. Other than that, the other maps are like okay, but they just have a lot of really annoying things about them that you have to consider. One of the maps has lots of rooftops. And so people will sit on top of these rooftops and they won't go for objectives. They'll just sit up there. And so you have to decide, do I want to just deal with these people up here, or am I going to take it upon myself to counter these people, whether it's with a sniper rifle, with a vehicle, with a helicopter, or spawn in with a mortar and launch mortars at their rooftop. And you can do all those things, but it's just kind of annoying because it's like you have to deal with these people who are constantly just rooftop people. And the map is small enough that at each rooftop you can see one or two objectives or a good chunk of an objective or something like that. So it's important to like take out people if they're on top of those rooftops. So that's annoying. The other maps are just like skinny and small and urban. I forget the map that I'm thinking of right now, but it's not like Operation Locker small from Battlefield 3, but even then, Operation Locker was like its own thing. The problem is Battlefield 3 also had a lot of other bigger maps where Battlefield 6 doesn't. So that's still like the main issue with Battlefield 6. But I'm still enjoying it. I still love playing as a medic. And the Blackwell Fields map, when it first released, people hated it. And I've played it a few times, and I think it's fine. I think any map, if people decide to snipe, they're going to ruin it for everybody. And Blackwell Fields is pretty open, so yeah, it's gonna be tough. But I mean, I think if you focus on objectives and you run toward the building, you hide in buildings, you hide in cover and stuff like that. I've never played a game on Blackwell Fields where I was like, this map is the worst thing ever. Like, I've always thought it's fine. It could definitely use some bigger cover and stuff like that. And yeah, there's usually like a bunch of dudes laying up on a hill somewhere being annoying, but not to the point where I thought it was like unplayable, or to the point where I didn't even. I like in the custom search, you can select to when you go into matchmaking, you can select the game modes and the maps you want to play, which is awesome. So if you really hate a map, you can do the game modes you want, and then you can just uncheck that map, cool. And you can play everything but that map, which is great. But I check all the maps because I think they're all fine. Yeah, you look like you're about to say something.
I was just lamenting because you're talking about snipers on the fields or on the hills and stuff. And I lamented about the one map on Battlefield 1. I think it was I don't think it was an Italy map, but yeah, it was just a gigantic like side of a mountain field.
yes.
And yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Sniper gleams everywhere.
Yeah. You guys know my position on sniping in video games and sniping. Sniping, like it's useful in real life. In video games, it's not unless you're talking really specific cases, like. It's useful in squad if there is a bunker that you can't take out with optics, which never happens. But like when we would do mortar squads, people would be like, "Oh, I'll spawn in as a sniper and I'll go scout and tell you if your rounds are dropping accurately." Yeah. And it's like, no, don't spawn as a sniper. Just spawn as a guy with binoculars, because that works just as well. And you have a weapon that can actually defend the squad if need be. You don't need a sniper rifle to like to make sure our rounds are hitting accurately and to scout enemy positions. You just need a pair of binoculars for that. It works perfectly fine. And it's not like you're going to be taking shots at these guys because we're going to be hitting them and you have to stay hidden because you're scouting. So take an M4 with iron sights and binoculars and hide in bushes. That is your job if you're an advanced scout. your job is not, sniper elite and trying to take out a bunch of people. But anyway, okay, let's hit the news and talk news. Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. Okay, so Meta is planning deep cuts to Reality Labs. This is a report from Bloomberg's Kurt Wagner. Executives are considering cuts as high as 30% for the Metaverse group, which could come as soon as January. The savings are expected to be allocated toward Reality Labs' AI efforts like AI glasses and other wearables. A spokesperson told Bloomberg, quote, "Within our overall Reality Labs portfolio, we are shifting some of our investment from Metaverse toward AI glasses and wearables, given the momentum there. We aren't planning any broader changes than that." I'm going to read a piece of the story here. The Metaverse Group sits within Reality Labs, the Meta division focused on long-term bets like VR headsets and AR glasses. That group has lost more than $70 billion since the start of 2021. Zuckerberg has largely stopped mentioning the metaverse in public and on company earnings calls, and is instead focused on developing the large AI models that underpin AI chatbots and other generative AI products, as well as the hardware products that are more linked to those experiences, like Meta's Ray-Ban smart display glasses. Okay. This is something I wanted to talk about because I thought there are a few different things going on simultaneously. So not Corsair. Was it Corsair? No.
Micron?
I'm thinking of the company that said they were going to de-emphasize RAM for gaming and they were going to shift it to AI. It wasn't Corsair. Crucial,
which is Micron.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Micron owns Crucial, and Micron was like, we're going with company AI only, which affects Crucial.
Well, yeah. So we have that, which who knows which we'll get to that in a second. So RAM prices may spike.
Yep.
It's just like with how crypto affected GPU prices, that we may have that similar thing happening here. At the same time, Meta seems to be, and I think it feels like this has been brewing for a while, but Meta seems to just be distracted by AI and their Ray-Ban glasses, which I don't think are a good idea. I think Meta's whole business is advertising. So if your business is advertising and you're giving people wearables, how are you going to make money with those wearables? It would be to put advertising on the wearables, which sounds dystopian. But that would have to be the way you make money, right?
It's the inverse of They Live.
Yes, it is. You put the glasses on and then you see all the ads and stuff like that. Exactly. It is the inverse of They Live. So by doing that, it seems like, they're de-emphasizing VR and metaverse, which was never a good idea to begin with, and was never an idea they should have pursued because it was silly and nebulous and didn't mean anything from the get-go. At the same time, Steam just announced the Steam Frame. So at the same time that the company with the largest market share in VR is saying, hey, we're going to shift focus to something nobody cares about, I don't know how well the Ray-Bans are selling, but I'm just going to hope that they aren't super popular because I don't want them to have to wedge their way into everybody's lives. At the same time that's happening, Steam just announced a lighter, we don't know about price yet, but I would assume it's going to be a relatively cheaper headset that is streaming, so you don't have to worry about cables, and also because it's streaming, I assume that's also going to add to the cost, or take away from the cost, I should say. And in that market, that VR market where maybe PC people, maybe people that bought a VR headset and they just haven't picked it up in a long time, because I think for one, how many people know about Asgard's Wrath 2? You don't see ads about it. How many people know about Batman? There's ads about that. You watch an NBA game, you may get a Meta VR ad. But if you browse Steam, if you browse the PlayStation Store, you don't see ads for those games, which they may be some of the best VR games because they're locked to the Quest ecosystem. So some of the best games are locked away. When they would find new markets on if they were not locked away. So if those people all of a sudden have a new reason to hop into VR with the Steam Frame, and maybe they start paying attention to VR, maybe that can rejuvenate the market. I'd have no idea. But again, the issue is that Meta's huge market share is still there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a percentage of people that bought Quest and just they played with it and they just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
They just don't care about VR at all. But I do think there's a percentage of people out there that would love to continue using VR, but it's just the market and different storefronts and stuff like that kind of make it difficult to be enthusiastic about and to get into. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's AI, of course, is every major company's shiny new toy, and that is the same for Facebook, in which VR for them was this really neat cutting edge technology that they wanted to force utilization for because they believed that it would work for every facet of your life.
Mm-hmm.
But what it best worked for was video games and experiences. And despite the popularity of Beat Saber, despite the popularity of certain other Half-Life Alyx is one, even though I know it's not native to Quest 3, it's something you can play on your Quest. They decided to look the other way and continuously tried to force a new Roblox or a new, yes. Roblox more than anything, a new Second Life, new whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's not panning out and it doesn't work. But AI is quote unquote making money and quote unquote the future. So they're moving on, and I don't know what this means for the Quest headsets, because they are good headsets, despite who owns them. It's unfortunate, but now if someone else takes the reins, I don't want to say Valve, because Valve, although comes out with really good stuff, they're less hands-on than Nintendo is.
Yes,
that makes sense, because Nintendo will release a console and they kind of go, all right guys, make stuff for us. And Valve is very much even worse than that.
Yeah. They support their hardware.
Yeah.
The Steam Deck has been supported really well.
Yeah, of course.
But you are correct in the sense that they're not, I don't know, they're hey, get your games, make sure your games are good on Steam Deck.
Yeah.
And then they just support the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
But they're not, I don't think they're out there because with the original Steam machine, that's kind of what they did, where they had to subsidize or whatever with different companies.
Yeah.
But with the Steam Deck, they kind of went the opposite way, and I think with the Steam machine, they're going the opposite way, where it's just we're gonna make this thing. We already have the ecosystem of games. We have the user base with Steam.
Yeah.
So if the next Cyberpunk comes out and it runs great on Steam machine, cool. But we're not going to work with. I don't know. Yeah. I know what you're saying, and I think you're correct.
And so they will release Steam Frame, and once again, it'll be a cool headset. But they won't do anything else beyond that. They aren't going to take the reins and run with it.
Yeah.
It will heavily rely on developer and consumer interest from then on out, which is already at a low, particularly for consumer interest rather than. But that is because there's no games, and that is also due to the stranglehold that MetaQuest has on the VR world, because there's no reason we shouldn't have Resident Evil 4
0
on VR. There's no reason we shouldn't have 7 and 8 in VR on PC.
0. Yeah.
Because PlayStation sure as hell isn't doing anything with it.
I've looked up and I still have no idea why it's something with Sony. I would assume something with Sony and Capcom.
There's an exclusivity
there's
or
some kind of exclusivity thing. I don't know what it's, but it's so weird that Capcom released the game that you can play Resident Evil 2 on PC and Resident Evil 4 on PC. And Capcom, like a lot of other companies, found this secondary market where they're like, holy shit, we can release games on PC and people love it.
Yeah.
So why aren't you putting VR out there? Because the VR user base is so much bigger on PC than it is on PlayStation. I don't know. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
And I don't understand why. It feels like somebody's just asleep at the wheel or something. I don't know. It's interesting that, I don't know, I wouldn't put it past Valve to, I don't know, because they've worked with other companies before. They worked with Turtle Rock or whatever the studio's name was called with Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put it past Valve if they put a headset out there and they're like, you know what, we'll give this developer over here, we'll give you $5 million, whatever.
Yeah.
And you can make a VR game. They, all I'm saying is they try and subsidize the market, right? In some way. I think they have the capital for that. Gabe Newell has the capital himself. Probably
Sure does.
So like that would be an interesting thing that for them to take advantage, especially if Meta is like Mark Zuckerberg standing out in the middle of a field and a butterfly with AI on it flies past his face and all of a sudden he's walking a different direction. Like if that happens and it looks like it's happening and you have an opportunity to like really really sort of put your stake in a market that is just kind of lost in the wind. Yeah, why don't you subsidize some developers?
Yeah.
There are plenty of talented VR developers out there that are kind of, they're stuck either figuring out how to take advantage of the market that's on Quest or whatever, or like, do we want to put our game on PC? And if we put our game on PC, how do we make it cross-compatible, et cetera, et cetera? But if you're Valve, why not just subsidize that? And I don't know. It would be maybe I'm just wish casting. Is that the term? Because I think it's just do this because it's such a good idea. Valve, just do it. You could do it.
You're throwing it out there into the wind.
I'm just like, please, it would be such a good idea. But they didn't do that with the Steam Deck, right? It wasn't like they paid companies to make games that were going to be optimized for the Steam Deck. They took a very libertarian stance where we're going to make this Steam Deck, we're going to support it, we're going to support the hardware and the software, and then hopefully companies sort of reverse engineer their games to work on it. And when the market was there with the Steam Deck, what did we see? People started, if a game works on Steam Deck, PR people are like, hey, our game is
verified,
it's authentic. It's verified on Steam Deck because people are constantly looking for games to play on their Steam Deck. So the market was like already there. It just had to be discovered and innovated on, and then Steam started that. So man, I need to email Gabe and tell him to do this. Like there is an opportunity here where you give a couple studios just, I don't know, take the money you make from CSGO loot boxes for a month,
right?
Like $1 billion, cut that up into a couple different chunks and just throw it at some teams and say, make a kick-ass VR game.
Yeah.
And then it's going to release a month, 2 months, 6 months after the Steam frame. And then boom, there you go. We're subsidizing the market, PC VR market. And hopefully bringing those people that kind of got disinterested in the market after Meta, stopped giving a shit, bring those people back into like the PC realm. Connor, did you have anything you would like to say about this?
Good riddance to Meta. Go away.
I mean, we would agree. Unfortunately, I don't think they are going away.
It's not that simple, but
yeah, and
getting them to loosen their grip on the VR market will more than likely benefit it in totality.
Yeah, I don't think I'm reading too into the tea leaves here. I think that is what this is indicating somewhat. I don't think tomorrow they're going to abandon VR gaming by any stretch, but are they shifting priorities? And it's a company that was never focused on VR, and so yeah, like I think that's a reasonable thing to see in this. I remember like last year I made a video about the PSVR 2, and I essentially made that argument, but for Sony, because I was like, the PSVR 2 is such a nice headset. If you make it where it can work on a PC, then it's like Sony could take advantage of, and also. Sony's putting their games on PC. Now they have a PC foothold where people are like, when a game, when Death Stranding 2 released, PC Gamer was writing stories about when are we going to get Death Stranding 2 on PC, right? Whereas in the before times, PC Gamer didn't cover consoles because it's consoles, so that media wasn't there. But now all of a sudden, PlayStation gets those media hits from PC gaming-centric websites and whatnot because they've unlocked that secondary market. So if you do that with VR, that'd be even better. Now, I knew at the time that PlayStation probably wouldn't do that because that would require them to be proactive and spend money on stuff and take risks. And of course, I didn't think that would happen, but I thought it was a good idea nonetheless. So the situation is here again, and Meta is even has even drifted further away from taking VR seriously. As you said, taking what VR can do well, which is gaming, seriously. So it's like the opportunity is still here, and now here comes Valve with their new headset. But of course, all that is further complicated by, like how is hardware pricing going to work? Who knows what's going to happen with this AI thing? There's that meme of like the cartoon, the cartoon dude with the stick that's like, do something already.
Yeah.
It just pop already, please. Like, can we get this over with? Can we I know it'll bring down like half of our economy and start a post-apocalyptic scenario. But can we just get that done with?
Need a hard reset.
Yeah, so we can move on and figure out what we're gonna do next. Okay, we will move on to the Netflix WB deal, which that's what was going to happen, but now it seems like there's other stuff going on. So Netflix was going to acquire Warner Bros. At I forgot to put the share price in my notes. I have share price. I knew there was something I needed to add to my notes. It was something at around I think it was like the initial price was around like $25 a share or something like that. It was right around there. After the company split away from its Discovery part, which is all the TV station, right? Mm-hmm. And the TV thing is supposedly the part of the company that's like not doing as well, which would make sense to me because it's like CNN, TNT, etc. So you cut that off. Apparently, I read in a few places they intend to like load debt onto it. I don't understand how you can have debt as a company and then like cut off a part of your company and load the debt. It's literally like, I don't know, it's literally like if you like committed a crime and then you got a haircut and you're like, oh no, I didn't commit the crime. The hair on the ground, that's what committed the crime.
Right, yeah.
So arrest the hair.
It was controlling me.
Not me. But so anyway, so they're going to like load debt on the Discovery part and make that a whole new company. And I don't know, I guess people have to go work for a company that is just set up to fail. In any case, Paramount has now launched a hostile takeover bid, and that was around $30 a share. So it was way overvaluing the price of Warner Brothers. But the idea was because the share price was so high and because it beat out Netflix, that's the hostile takeover thing. Paramount's CEO is David Ellison, who is son of billionaire Larry Ellison, who is a big Trump ally. That is important because remember, Paramount agreed to pay Trump a $16 million settlement over how 60 Minutes edited an interview with Kamala Harris, and later CBS announced it would end Colbert's Late Show. So there's a bunch of like political things going on here because the Paramount Skydance merger happened right around the time that lawsuit was going through. CBS agreeing to pay our syphilitic president $16 million for what was just the most ridiculous of complaints was, I think, seen to me as a shakedown so that they would allow this merger to go through. And at the same time, Trump, I think, has already talked about the Netflix deal and like, well, it could be good, but you know, it's a big market share. So it's like, you know, how much are you willing to pay Netflix to get this deal done? And now Paramount's in there. So, and Paramount has already like donated to or Larry Ellison is already a big Trump ally. So how that's going to shake out, how they are going to, placate the fucking greasy, sloppy king, who knows? But all that is up in the air. And in the meantime, companies like Rocksteady, Avalanche Software, TT Games, and NetherRealm are sitting there, and who knows what's going to happen to them because WB's. Let's get into discussing it. So I don't know from what you guys have seen, what you guys have read. Do you guys have any like high level takes, whatever? Because there's the entertainment aspect of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is bad, but we don't really talk about like streaming services and stuff like that, but we could. This is more about like the game sector of this, which nobody, including Netflix, seems to like care about.
Right.
Which I think is interesting.
Yeah, there is no upside in any of this when it comes to the games section of WB.
And I don't know, what do you, if you're Netflix, do you think, I don't know, do you think you, we've talked about Netflix's strategy in the past and how it just seems like they kind of want to do stuff, but not really. And it's like they kind of experimented with like mobile side stuff and party stuff, but what they don't seem to like don't want to do is big AAA projects. But that's what these companies would be: Rocksteady,
for sure,
Avalanche, TT Games, NetherRealm. These are all like, these are premium games. They're not making, you know, tiny little like indie stuff. So that is a investment that would be surprising in the wake of what we know about Netflix's business strategy thus far. Do they spin it off into something new? That would be interesting if they just let the games go their own way. I think a question you have to ask yourself if you're Netflix or Paramount is like, do you, and I've said this before, but like, do you want to be in video games? Yes or no? Because it takes money and it takes time, and you can build something sustainable, but you just have to have the patience for it. And you have to hire people that know what they're doing. You know, you shouldn't go the Amazon route where you bring guys in that were selling diapers, you know, on Amazon.com and they're like, oh yeah, I can run a games division, and they have no idea what the hell they're doing.
Right.
So they trip and fall over themselves, and before you know it, Amazon is rudderless when it comes to games. Like, you don't want that. So you have to bring in somebody that like knows what they're doing. And if you're not interested in that, then the best thing would be to divest and just get rid of the game section altogether, because why? I don't know. You're just gonna create a mess either way. I don't know. But even saying that is scary, because I don't know. If I worked for a company, I wouldn't want to hear the best option is your company gets sold and your job is up in the air because you're going somewhere else. But anyway, sorry. I
had a couple thoughts, but they keep flying away through my head. I know that like I have been keeping, I don't want to say I've been keeping an eye on it because it's not like I care much, but the hubbub about acquiring WB, particularly when it comes to Netflix and Paramount, has really like gave me a strange feeling, because it's essentially what late stage capitalism is. But it's as if like somebody with like the I'm gonna say deeds. I know it's not deeds. Somebody with the privilege of owning this thing like had like a pile of all of WB's properties and just went like this in front of like Netflix, and they're just all trying to like grab it as quickly as they can for themselves. But unfortunately, it's such a big chunk of all of these properties that it's kind of this like cannibalization of itself, with which, once again, late stage capitalism. So it's just I guess it's strange to see two very big Paramount and Netflix kind of acting so panicky over it. It seems very panicky.
On Paramount's side, because I think from Paramount's point of view, and I'm gonna simplify and sort of summarize. Yeah. But they, I think, to them, it was WB sort of leveraged their position into gaining a better deal with Netflix. So that pissed off Paramount, because Paramount was already, I think, rumored to be trying to make a deal with WB. Right. And so they were like, oh, we're going to make a deal with Paramount. And then Netflix came in and they're like, oh, your deal's better. I guess we'll do Netflix. Yeah. And so that pissed off Paramount. So now Paramount said, fine, we'll just break out the hostile takeover, and we're going to pay you at a rate that is way over value for the company. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that's where, and yes, it's only like a few days later, right? And again, I do think a part of that, it cannot be overstated, is that yes, the president of the United States is going to have say in this, because he's an idiot who like has to talk about everything, and his FCC is corrupt as hell. and he's shaking his grubby cheeseburger greasy hands with all of these dudes that own these companies. So there's that part of it too. There's sort of the political angle to it.
Right.
That I think, yeah. And when it comes to, like, I don't know, man, when it comes to obviously media falling under, you know, monopolistic things like this, I don't think anything good can come from it, just because I don't think Netflix really respects Netflix is already like toyed with AI and has done that.
Yeah.
And Netflix, I don't think really respects a lot of the content that they make.
Yeah.
A lot of it's sludge. A lot of it is how do we, you know, it's about the algorithm.
It's flipping. It's grabbing things and then putting out as fast as they can to get more subscribers. And that's a joke somebody made online. I think it was yesterday or today, and it was basically like, you guys have enough money to buy Warner Brothers, but you're begging and you're crying and begging for us to subscribe more and not share our passwords with people. Like, which one is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So it's just, it's a greed.
Yeah.
Greed full on.
And you know, I think you can look at something like Disney's purchase of Star Wars as like a good example of one media company getting a property and sort of not knowing what to do with the property and just making it stupid. I would say that Paramount with Star Trek, but Star Trek's been with Paramount for a long time. But they also did it with Star Trek, where they just kind of made it dumb. Yeah. And that's just because they own everything to it. And I guess, you know, it's not like David Zaslav is going to be writing, I don't know, Batman scripts. But again, the problem is a company with the ethos of a streaming service like Netflix does not foster the kind of creativity that I think you would hope can make better movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because Netflix's ethos is not about making better stuff. It's just about making stuff and putting it out there. There was a really good story in a magazine I read a couple months ago about about like Netflix just kind of needs to throw stuff on the service to make the service alive for different people with different algorithms, and how they can change active viewership numbers and whatnot to make it look better than it actually is. Yeah. And you know, so much of our economy is just built on bullshit, whether it's advertising, AI right now, like so much of it is just built on speculative bullshit. So it's like, if you can, I don't know, if that's why the play next button is so important in all these services, because if you can get somebody who is not paying attention to their TV or something and it rolls into the next episode, then hopefully you keep them, or, well, I guess idea one is you keep them from doing something else. You keep their eyes on your streaming service. Or two, even if they do get up and walk away, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if someone's actively watching TV. What matters is the metrics say, oh, this TV show rolled 3 times into 3 episodes on this day. So we get to throw this into data that says, look, everybody's watching a bunch of episodes rolled back to back to back, when really it's just passive viewership, right?
Yeah.
It's just sort of passive washing over people viewership, which is, I don't think is necessarily wrong for people to do that, but is definitely sketchy and not great if we're basing massive artistic industries on the kind of economics and data that like way of thinking generates, which is not good. So more specifically to games, I do think that if you are Netflix, you really have to decide, like, right now, what you want to do with games. Because it doesn't seem like they've had a plan. It doesn't seem like they really know what they want to do. And I think it's partially because, you know, Richard, we've said this before. Connor, I think I've said it with you before, maybe when we were all together. This idea that nobody plays video games. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Lots of people play video games, but it's like, no. No one plays video games. No one actually understands how to make a game. I'm not saying I do. I'm saying the systemic factors behind, like, running a games business. Like, nobody understands the market behind a game like Avowed versus the market for a game like Fortnite, right? And the nuances and the complexities there. There are very few companies that I think can really understand that, and one of them being Valve. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know. Sony, maybe. not Xbox, because they're too concerned with like appeasing Microsoft, and Microsoft's too concerned with appeasing AI.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think of another, like Ubisoft. Like Ubisoft does a bunch of different shit. They were into NFTs. They're in AI. I think they understand the games business maybe better than like somebody like Warner Brothers. But Warner Brothers is one of those companies that, because it's just so big, that it's like, or like an Amazon, where they didn't have anybody that understood the business.
Yeah.
That could break down those differences, those delineations, and understand the market at like a broader scope. Instead, it was just, we need to get an MMO out there because I saw a commercial once where an MMO was popular and Mr. T was playing World of Warcraft, so that's what we should do, you know? Really simplistic and like lacking in entirely context, a perception of how the industry works. So yeah, if you're Netflix, that's the threat, that's the fear that something like that could happen. And so I don't know. And with Paramount, I have no idea. Paramount's, you know, it's just as complicated and messy as Netflix. Yeah, so, yeah. But I would assume that they're going to be just as, they're going to need the same kind of like focus on understanding what this market is, if they even care to like try at all, you know?
And it's weird, and we don't know if they are. And Netflix, this is a point that I never like talked about or brought up, but because we're just talking about like the Netflix Paramount thing, but Netflix, it's possible Netflix may get WB. We'll see how this
who knows
hostile takeover happens. The problem is that if Netflix gains all of these items from WB, they have literally no way to distribute any of it. Because Netflix isn't sustainable for a AAA title. Like, you know, right? So what is their option at that point? Recoup some losses by selling these studios to Sony, to Microsoft, to whoever, and Microsoft's probably more willing to buy them than Sony is, unfortunately.
And that would suck, because that you're just trading one monopoly for another.
Exactly, yeah. And both don't know what to do with anything. So yeah, it is scary, and just like Connor said, like there is no good outcome for this, and and every game will be like appified, you know, for the Netflix like ecosystem, unless they decide to dump a lot of money into creating a console of some sort, which is that would happen. No way, because that takes,
how bad would the Netflix console be?
It takes
oh my god,
so much time.
I'd rather have the Soldier Boy console.
yeah
Just imagining what a Netflix console would be like. That would be the most annoying. Like, you would bring up the dashboard, and it would be, you know how bad like the Xbox dashboard is, you would bring up like the Netflix dashboard, and there would just be like 4 Stranger Things ads.
Yeah.
and like when you pick your profile picture, you know, like in 360 days, there was the kid blowing a
bubble
gum. There was the skull and the monkey,
the panda.
Yeah, this one would be like the Tiger King guy, other characters from Tiger King. You know, it would just be the worst console of all time, a Netflix console.
Oh boy,
I don't even know what we would call it. Like the Netflix, I don't know. It would be horrible. A Netflix console, but it would also be super expensive. So, yeah, you would essentially be a publisher at that point. And but are you interested in being a AAA publisher, Netflix? And I feel like, I don't know. They may say, sure, but it's like, are you sure? Because do you understand what's involved with it? And then they may dive into it like Amazon and bail like Amazon and create a huge mess. And it's like, well, shit. Now all these people that left Blizzard or left these other companies because they're like, I can take, you know, what's her name? That left.
Jade
Raymond. And she, you know, went to Stadia and was like, hey, we'll do this new thing with Google. And then Stadia crashed and burned. And now it's like, okay, I guess I'll go over here. Joseph Staten, who you know, worked at Bungie for a long time, was famous writer of Halo. He left. He went for Microsoft, and then he came and he left Microsoft. Well, he's still at Microsoft. He left Microsoft Publishing, went to 343 to help out with Halo Infinite. Then he went to Netflix. Well, now Netflix is like tossing and turning, and this guy that was like one of the, you know, imagine if like Guillermo del Toro or, I don't know, fucking Steven Spielberg, like, couldn't make a game for a long time because they kept jumping to movie production studios that were just crashing and burning all over the place.
But he did make a really good franchise, though. for the most part.
Yes, he did. So it's just like, that sucks. Just that systemic failure just sucks. And that's not what I would want to happen at Netflix. Okay. Sorry. Was there anything else we wanted to say about this, Connor?
I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix and or Paramount have completely forgotten that they're also getting video game developers out of this.
Yeah, there's that. In the press release for Netflix, I don't think it even mentioned video games, which is weird considering how successful Hogwarts Legacy is and how big like Mortal Kombat is. You know,
Yeah,
like that's such a big profit. Like Mortal Kombat is more famous as a video game than it is as a movie, right? And they're
it
releasing
is
a movie
like
soon.
one of the video games that will be remembered throughout history just because of the ESRB.
Well, there's that, yes, but like, I don't know. You would think if you were looking at WB's upcoming movies and it's like, oh, there's a Mortal Kombat movie coming out, and you were an executive at WB, you'd think to yourself, you know, if there's been a bunch of Mortal Kombat movies, the games must be quite successful.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. I don't know. Maybe here's what you do. You take all these companies, you split them off into their own new company, an independent games company. You take Ed Boon from NetherRealm. I don't think he retired. And you make him the lead of the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what you do. That's my $1 million idea.
A good one.
Is it? I don't know. Okay, are we ready for tidbits?
Yeah.
Let's do tidbits. What if I told you, in this world, there are bits, and there are tids, and Richard is the only man who can put them together into tidbits.
Earlier this morning, Katsuhiro Harada announced that he is leaving Bandai Namco after 30 plus years. He started the announcement with a statement and a quick insight of why, which I will read both below. Quote, I'd like to share that I'll be leaving Bandai Namco at the end of 2025. With the Tekken series reaching its 30th anniversary, an important milestone for a project I've devoted much of my life to, I felt this was the most fitting moment to bring one chapter to a close. He said some more words, but eventually this single part here was very important, so I decided to highlight that and read it. Quote, in recent years, I've experienced the loss of several close friends in my personal life, and in my professional life, I witnessed the retirement or passing of many senior colleagues whom I deeply respect. Those accumulated events made me reflect on the time I have left as a creator. During that period, I sought advice from Ken Kutaragi, whom I respect as though he were another father, and received invaluable encouragement and guidance. His words quietly supported me in making this decision. Recently, of course, Tomonobu Itagaki, famed director of the Dead or Alive fighting game series, passed away, who was a very good friend of Harada, and that's who he was talking about. So it seems like he made this decision soon after. So
What's interesting about fighting games is like it's like the NHL, where the NHL is really niche,
mm-hmm.
but if you go talk to an NHL fan, they know everything.
Yeah.
They know like there are no like there are a few casual NHL fans,
sure, yeah.
but you go into a stadium and you find an NHL fan, he can tell you about, or he or she can tell you about everything.
That's
right?
quite true.
So I think like a fighting game is similar in that there are people like me that'll play them every now and then, but I think it doesn't take very long to find someone who is into fighting games and they're super into it. And there's like a whole universe where Harada and people like Ed Boon are like superstars.
Oh yeah.
Right. And yeah, so it kind of makes me wish that I was more into fighting games, because like a lot of the passion you hear, because it's such a communicative subgenre, because so much of it is about the feedback and about how do we fix this, how do we make this right, because it's all about a PvP game, and it's all about and it's all about playing with somebody next to you, right? So there's a community there, like a real community that I don't think other games really have. Like I don't think
true.
like other, I don't like maybe sports games, but there aren't very many games today where it's like they're so closely associated with on the couch multiplayer, right? Like a fighting game is. So anyway, it just made me think about like how I kind of wish I was more into fighting games because reading this made me feel nostalgic, even though I don't think I've ever owned a Tekken game.
Yeah, the fighting game, you're absolutely right about all of those aspects. But yeah, the fighting games in general probably have the purest form of one-on-one your skills against mine. Mm-hmm. You can argue that for like first-person shooters, but it kind of comes down to like knowing the map. Like, and that is a skill. I'm not saying it's not a skill, but it's just a different competition. It is right. Yeah. It's not like Mortal Kombat's flat plane, you know, and it's just, And it is, you know, in some ways like chess. Like Dead or Alive is very famed for knowing, for counters and knowing, you know, if your opponent is going to throw like a low punch, a medium punch, or like a high punch, if I press back and punch or up and back and punch or down back and punch, like in coordination with what they're throwing, you'll immediately like throw them. So it's kind of like a chess game. But a lot of people are taken aback and shocked by it. Look at me. He was a great guy. He was fun. He gave a lot of insight on Twitter to a lot of the decisions he makes.
Yeah.
And a lot of and it was really, because there was a joke a couple months ago where people were like, hey, you should put the Waffle House in Tekken 8 as a stage. And he was like, what's the Waffle? And like they explained it to him and he's like, all right, I'll look into it. And he actively tried. So it was very fun. But yeah, it sucks that he's leaving, but we'll see what he does next. Another gaming creator is doing some really cool stuff on Twitter, of course. It will always be Twitter, not X. Hideki Kamiya is giving some real cool tidbits about the original Resident Evil. And when users commented on how like Resident Evil looked, Kamiya chimed in to give some insight about some certain design choices. He lamented how like testers couldn't tell when hallways had turns in them due to like the camera angles and the low polygonal count. Mm-hmm. So what he did was he went into the game and let's say if you were looking at a hallway and there's a corner, what he did was he made it seem like there was a light source shining onto the wall from the angle so that you would know, oh, there's something there.
And, and people probably didn't even realize it.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. Because a lot of people, including myself, were like, oh, yeah, of course. Like that kind of makes sense. Because if you would turn that corner, a lot of times there may not be a light, the correct light source, but it's just to like kind of subtly show you how to like, you know, go that way. He also gave a really cool tidbit about towards the end of Resident Evil 1, there's naked zombies that appear in the last portion of the game. And a user complained about like, why were there so many of them like towards the end of the game? And he stated that, quote, at the time, the technical limitations for displaying characters were still quite strict, so we can only have a maximum of 3 zombies on the screen at the same time. The laboratory is the climax of the game, so we really wanted to increase the number of simultaneous zombies somehow. And by creating a model, the naked zombie, with polygons reduced to the absolute limit as an advanced decayed zombie, because there's no clothes, so no more polygons, it became possible to set 4 of them instead of 3.
That's funny.
So there were some other tidbits he gave, like the very... the classic looking zombie that's kind of like in its side and it's like looking at you.
Very famous.
He said they gave the directions of what they wanted to the CG company, and the CG company came back with that model, but they didn't have a model in the game that looked like that, so it would be like huge disconnect. Yeah. And so they had like a week or 2 to like make a new model for that specific zombie.
Oh, whoa,
so
interesting.
Like,
okay.
The directions they gave weren't, you know, taken incorrectly, and then they were given that, so they had to rush to fix it. So that was really cool.
Interesting.
So yeah, and he's been talking all day about Resident Evil stuff, which he usually doesn't. He's just banning people all the time, which is fun. But got some news from Circana. I know I haven't been doing Circana numbers. It's tough to go to Blue Sky, and
it has been a while.
But PS5 was the best-selling console during Black Friday week in the U.S., accounting for 47% of the hardware sales. Switch 2 ranked second at 24%. And the Next Playground coming in third, 14%.
This thing that I'm suddenly hearing a lot about, this Next Playground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw it like once a while back, and I was just like, oh, okay, and I moved on. I thought it was just like a thing. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's a thing, but just like I didn't even know it was a console. I'd seen the device before, but.
Mm-hmm. And this is Matt Piscatella?
Yeah, Mr. Mikey. But we, Xbox did not chart. as far as I'm aware.
Man,
Thanks.
I don't. What do you? I mean, we've talked. I mean, I don't know. We've beat that horse so much that at this point,
It's glue.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. We'll save more Xbox takes for another day when there's Xbox news. Maybe Game Awards. Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, they need to figure it out. What's next?
No, that's it. I'm sorry. That's all for tidbits tonight.
Okay, cool. Follow us, patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse, youtube.com/thegamingdiscourse. There's just a few, the Game Awards are this week,
Thursday.
right?
Thursday. Yeah.
Ooh, geez. Okay. And then we'll be back with Game Awards hot takes, I guess, next week. So
Sure will.
we will see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.